Hey there, my name's Portia Lori. Welcome to or welcome back to my YouTube channel. When I'm filming this is the first weekend of November. The weather has severely shifted here in Oregon, and we don't see sun here until April. So that seasonal depression is going to start rolling in, but it hasn't gotten here quite yet. So yay for that. But anyway, today's video is about a topic that has been really interesting to me for the last, year and a half. I know I was extremely late to the popularity of this topic, but that doesn't mean I can't find the same level of enjoyment as those of you that I know have been part of the community for quite some time. And that community that I would like to talk about more today is the fan fiction community. So I'm going to get into a little bit of the background and history of fan fiction and how it developed and where it is today. I'm going to talk a little bit about one of our favorite movies to hate here on YouTube after, and my thoughts on where I think this genre will go from here. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you stick around. And as always, if you enjoy listening to my opinion on all things pop culture, movies, music, TV shows, what have you, do me a solid and drop a like on this video, then run over to that subscribe button and hit the bell next to it so you can be notified every time I upload. I don't think I have any other channel updates, so let's go ahead and jump into the topic. So before I start kind of divulging the history of fan fiction, I wanted to divulge a little bit about myself. So I've known that fan fiction has existed for a long time, but as someone who is a millennial and kind of grew up with the infancy of the internet, fan fiction has always existed, but it wasn't something that was super mainstream, super talked about, or that I actually knew of anyone else that partook in this particular community. Fast forward to 2018, and I start hearing the rumblings about this book that started out online and got some traction and eventually was made into a book series and then was also being made into this movie. And sidebar, the story is about a famous boy band, and I was like, this seems really fantastical. I have to learn more about what this is. So let's talk about the history of fan fiction. First of all, what is it? Fan fiction, also known as fanfic, fic, or FF, is kind of a way that fans of a popular TV show, book, movie, what have you, will take the characters from that original story and insert them into their own made-up world, scenario, story, etc. Prior to the invention of copyright in the 1800s, this was not an unusual way that people would tell different stories. A lot of books from that time period would take one other person's story, insert new characters or a new environment, and call it their own. Moving into the 19th century, we saw this reoccurring again with famous authors of that time, such as Jane Austen, Bram Stoker, and the Sherlock Holmes series, all of which featured many sequels and unauthorized retellings of their famous works. Super fast forward to the 70s, and we have the Star Trek effect, which saw the beginnings of what we now know as fandoms and the beginnings of fan fiction, where fans were so excited and enthralled by these characters that they couldn't help but taking these characters and scenarios and putting them into their own universes. This would also go on to be featured in popular Star Trek fandom magazines such as Spocknalia. I apologize if I completely butchered that word, that was running in 1967. During this time, it is reported that most of the submissions, about 80 to 90% of them, were submissions from women. I would also venture a guess to say that this was largely due to the fact that there were so few women writers in Hollywood at the time that women-focused stories were not being told enough. Therefore, enter fans who wanted to see themselves as more of a bigger contributor to the leads of the show would then turn and make their own renditions with the characters that they had already loved. The invention of the internet is what truly changed the game on fan fiction and its level of popularity even today. In 1998, popular nonprofit fan fiction website fanfiction.net created an archive where writers could contribute their works and actually have a place where they are stored for others to consume and for themselves to hold as ownership of their works. Most notably, this is the website that was the home to the infamous Master of the Universe, or what you might know today as 50 Shades of Grey. So with works like Master of the Universe, we know that this later went on to be created for consumption by the masses, and was later given a publishing deal as well as the film rights for the movies that we pretend don't exist now. Now, in the process of taking a fan fiction and making it publishable and not violate any copyright rules, there's an act that is called pulling to publish. And this is where the writer of the fan fiction will then go and change out the original character names so that they are not coincide with the original work that it was based off of, as well as changing locations and different small details to differentiate the story and make it its own copyrightable work. The pulling to publish is what allows the work to then be considered authentic or original. Now, the world of fan fiction had become so popularized that even Amazon tried to dip its toe into the water, and in 2013 they released Kindle Worlds, which gave Kindle users access to fan fiction submitted by other Kindle users, and kind of creating their own Wattpad, if you will, a newly popularized fan fiction website. And I think it's also notable to say that there was also fan fiction going on in other parts of the world. This was not just a United States thing. But when I'm discussing fan fiction and its popularization, I'm only really speaking to the US and the trends here. If you are watching from another country, or you know information about the level of popularity of fan fiction across other countries, please drop all of that knowledge and information down in the comments below. I'm sure we'd all love to know about it. So fan fiction today, where do you find it? In the top fanfiction websites, we have fanfiction.net, which is still out here thriving. Archive of Our Own, Wattpad, which I guess also could be Wattpad, but that sounds weird to say, so I'm going to continue to call it Wattpad. Tumblr, which I'm confused about. Someone in the comments tell me, I never jumped on the Tumblr train. Like, I was the perfect, age bracket to be into Tumblr when Tumblr was cool, but then I just never was. I had a Tumblr and I never used it. From my research, I found that Tumblr was a popular location to find fan fiction, and it's still listed as one today. So if you are a Tumblr user, let me know. Is this really that popular on Tumblr? What is Tumblr used for these days? Is it still a Lana Del Rey, sanctuary? Just let me know. A girl is curious, but not curious enough to create a Tumblr. And then of course you might want to know some popular fan fictions that have been published and or adapted into the silver screen. But some of the most famous are 50 Shades of Grey, The Mortal Instruments, City of Bones, The Kissing Booth, and Clueless. Now, some of those you might have been like, wait a minute, since when is Clueless a fan fiction? If you're unfamiliar, the story of Clueless is the same story as the story of Emma, which is famously written by Jane Austen. And there have been numerous retellings of Emma, but Clueless is also kind of its own very modernization of the same story. Just think about Disney and how they've basically created their entire empire off of Grimm's stories. Barely any of the original beginning movies that were done by Disney were original, authentic ideas. Most of them were retellings of famous fairy tales. Now, I think it's a good time to talk about the entire reason I started to create this video, and that is to talk about After. In 2013, author Anna Todd was an avid reader of the largely popular app Wattpad. And after growing really anxious trying to wait for stories to update and to find new things to read on the site, she decided to start a little story of her own. A popular trend that existed on Instagram at the time were to post pictures and in the captions kind of create a short story to coincide with whatever the photo was. This is something Anna Todd began doing around the same time, and after growing a lot of popularity on the platform, she realized she needed more space to create more fully fleshed out stories, and that is when she began posting to Wattpad. Over time, she began posting weekly, which ultimately then became daily and amassed over 10,000 avid readers of her very popular series After. Wattpad actually approached Anna Todd about helping her get a publishing deal. She was able to nab a 6-figure deal with Simon & Schuster, probably one of the most popular YA publishing houses, in October of 2014. Something that I thought was really interesting that I found out during my research is that 5 years prior to the book release, Paramount had already bought the screen rights for the film version of After. So Paramount actually sold the rights back to the founding producer, Jennifer Gigagot. Sorry if I totally mispronounced that. On the caveat that she would find a non-major studio to produce the film. I don't really know why that is, but whatever. Movie studio deal stuff, that doesn't really matter to me. Ultimately, Cal Mabel, in conjunction with Avion Pictures, stepped in for production and distribution of the After films. As of making this video right here in 2022, there are currently 3 After movies out. There might be a 4th one out, but I can't find it to stream yet, so we're gonna stick with what I wrote down, which is 3. But there's also more on the way, so like, yay, I guess. So I couldn't stop at just learning the history of how this internet story became a major motion picture. I had to check out the movie for myself, you know, for research purposes. And that's 2 hours of my life, actually 6 hours at this point. That's 6 hours of my life I'm never gonna get back. Let's talk about After. Tessa Young is a freshman in college and meets a boy seemingly nothing like her, a punk named Hardin Scott. The two become fast enemies that are continuously forced together, eventually coming to realize they are more alike than they think and begin to have feelings for one another. But with Hardin, communication and emotional availability are anything but easy. The two attempt to have a relationship that they are constantly defending as well as fighting over, up until the end when a secret of Hardin's threatens to destroy any romance between them. Let's talk about the characters. First we have Tessa, girl next door, goody two-shoes reader extraordinaire, falls for bad boy punk Hardin. Hardin, also known online as the Harry Styles character, is a brooding punk rock reader hopelessly in love with Tessa because she's a pretty virgin. We have Noah, Tessa's high school boyfriend that doesn't need to be here. Steph, Tessa's dorm mate and reason for Hardin's existence in Tessa's life. Landon, Tessa's fellow overachiever friend and Hardin's stepbrother-to-be. Zed had a bigger role in the books, Hardin's friend/enemy, ? Molly, antagonist to Tessa, best dressed character, Hardin's ex-friends with benefits. Carol, Tessa's really mean mom. Ken, Hardin's ex-alcoholic father and chancellor of the college. I'm gonna give you a spoiler warning right here. I mean, this movie's came out in 2019, so at this point, I think most people are aware of what this movie's about or have watched a YouTube commentary or two about it. But in case you are interested in actually checking this out for yourself, here's your warning. I'm totally gonna give away the ending of the first book/movie. And also, it's so predictable that even if you haven't seen it and you want to, it doesn't matter. You would have guessed that this was the outcome regardless, I'm pretty sure. So the big twist ending is that in one of the most overused cliche catch-22s, it is revealed Hardin made a bet with friends that he could make Tessa fall in love with him and actually fell in love himself. And of course, she finds out at the diner, and the ending of the movie is a will they or won't they get back together kind of thing. Do you want to know my thoughts on After? Here's the thing. So first of all, let's take it way back and let's talk about Anna Todd and her fan fiction. First of all, I'm not here to shit talk Anna Todd. Can't say I've read anything else besides some of the first book, but I think she seems like a fine writer. There's lots of people who are fans of her. A nobody becoming this hugely successful author and had movies based on their work. That's freaking cool. You are my hero. I want to do that too. So like, no disrespect to Anna Todd.
Editing portion here. I recently got a new computer, and so somehow in the transfer from my old computer to the new one, I accidentally cut the clip that connects the dots here. But basically, I just started describing how I got back into the world of fan fiction and how I came across After and my experience reading it in its original One Direction form.
As my good friend here on YouTube, Sam, her and I actually met because we used to work together. Make sure you go check out her channel. I don't know if she's done a video about After. I'm hoping maybe this will make her want to do a video about after. But anyway, all of her YouTube information and her social medias and everything will be linked in the description down below. Anyway, I'd asked Sam, I think I had confided in her. I was like, you know, something I was really into when I was like in junior high and high school that I never told people I was into was fan fiction. I had asked her, I was like, you know, where do I find fan fiction? Like, I'd kind of like to get back into that genre if it's still a thing. And she was like, have you ever heard of Wattpad? I checked out after, and I think I got maybe 5 or 6 chapters in before I was like, this is awful. There's just not a lot going on in any particular chapter. Like, I couldn't tell you what differentiated the first half of the book versus the second half of the book. It's just kind of these scenarios of this girl who's timid and shy and this punk, I don't give a F kind of guy, and they keep being put into these scenarios that are definitely avoidable, but they just keep kind of finding ways to interact with each other. And they fight about nothing, and then they're turned on by each other for no reason. And then that's kind of it. And there's no real stakes at play. Like, Tessa's just a girl who wants to work in publishing, and she's going to school for that. And Hardin is a kid who likes to read, and he has trouble with authority, and he's got a lot of daddy issues. They both have daddy issues. His more prominent than hers. There's nothing really here. And the wild thing is not only how large After is, like, I don't know if you've ever seen that book in person, but she hella thick. And there's like 4 sequels, and nothing happens. Like, there are no stakes. I just don't really understand why people freaked out over this movie. The largest reason that people freaked out and were excited about this is because of the Harry Styles One Direction angle of it and how huge One Direction was at the time of the release of this online book. And then to move on from the book version to the screen adaptation, bro, it's the worst. It's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Am I exaggerating? Maybe a little, but like, it's not. It's so bad. One of my favorite horrible movies is Showgirls. I think Showgirls is a masterpiece in just a WTF kind of watch. And it's so fun to watch. It's so terrible that it's so fun to watch. This is not that at all. This is the opposite of that, in fact. Josephine Langford is the only part of this movie that keeps me kind of coming back for more, because I enjoy her. She has this, like, the sad puppy dog expression. Nailed it. Perfection. She does it well every time. I somehow find myself continuously feeling bad for this girl, even though she's choosing to stay with this jackass with the worst accent ever. Tessa, what the fuck? Tessa, I hate it. Oh, I hate it. But I keep watching. It's a train wreck. Like, After is worse than 50 Shades, I think. I didn't even know that was possible. But man, did these books take over the planet for a hot second. At least if you are a teenager between 13 and 17, which I think is why so many people have a problem with it. One, for the obvious sexual tone of the films, which I think, like, to some degree, it's fine. It's so watered down. There's nothing wrong with, like, the movies in that way. Like, they're definitely not as in your face with the sexuality as the books are. The books are more graphic because, well, they're books, one, and they can get away with that. So the movies, to me, that's like, there's nothing here. I know a lot of people have brought up, like, the toxicity that exists within their relationship. I do think all of that is here, but mostly the thing that I'm most concerned about is it's just not entertaining. There's just not enough plot, and the characters are so shallowly written that there's just no one to root for here. But if you want to know more about After and a little bit more about the actual characters and the storyline and really what makes the story so problematic, I highly suggest you go check out Mila Tequila's channel. Everything on her channel is absolutely amazing, hilarious, and very well researched, but she has a whole video about After. But kudos to Anna Todd for getting it done. She got that bag. She's continues to put out banger looks from her based on her sales. So like, good for everyone involved. If you're enjoying these movies, by all means, keep enjoying them. And at the same time, like, I'm doing myself a disservice. I watched all of the after movies, at least that I could find streaming. I chose to waste 6 hours of my life on this series. So who really is the one that needs to take a deeper look in the mirror? So I think now is a good time to kind of share my final thoughts. Due to the large success from most adaptations after 50 Shades, Galaxy Quest, I think that we are only beginning to see this genre grow. With the release of The Idea of You, a rumored movie based around Harry Styles, and Wicked, probably one of the most famous fan fictions based on the ideas and characters of The Wizard of Oz, coming out in December, it seems as though we are just beginning to see the possibilities of the fanfiction world. And on the non-fanfiction side, Wattpad has proven to be an excellent source to pull from for new inventive authors. I think that the future of fanfiction will increase in stories inspired by other works and people, but I think it will expand beyond that, and this could be the way to break into the Hollywood bubble. The biggest problem in the movie TV industry, in my opinion, is authenticity or a lack thereof. I think this could be the launching pad for larger changes and expansion of the Hollywood bubble. So I didn't really touch on it too much, although I know I mentioned it before, but there have also been new, inventive, authentic, original works that have been pulled from Wattpad and put on shelves and adapted into the big screens. Movies like The Kissing Booth are a great example of that, where it was an online-based story that made its way onto bookshelves, but it wasn't based on any pre-existing characters or a pre-existing story. It's actually an original work that just gained a lot of traction online. Now, something I do kind of have a problem with regarding fan fiction, and I think this kind of coincides with the video I did last week on horror movies that were based on true stories, is that I have a hard time wrapping around my idea of taking a real person existing in the world and fictionalizing a story about them. I think that that can be kind of dangerous territory. But something that the original art was kind of based off of is the idea of a dark Harry character, a punk rock Harry Styles. And basically what fans would do is they would take their favorite artist, musician, what have you, and fictionalize them into a specific kind of aesthetic or attitude or genre that was different than the one that we know of them. I think it is kind of weird to take a real human that we see and just put them into a story without having any authorization by them themselves. But when it comes to the world of fan fiction and taking beloved characters and putting them into your own scenario, nothing but fun. I feel like that's a lot of how the fandom keeps certain things alive after the hype has died. I know Boy Meets World fan fiction, that's a thing. I've read a few of them. Even as recently as like last year, these were stories that were new and being uploaded to the platform, keeping these old 90s TV shows alive in a sense. I don't see that fan fiction is a problem or a bad thing at all. That's basically all I've got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video about the world of fan fiction, and be sure to tell me in the comments, what do you think? Did you ever read fan fiction in your life? Was this something that you did in high school that you found kind of embarrassing? Was it a hobby that you did that you didn't tell anybody? Have you yourself contributed to fan fiction? Do you have any authors on there that you think that I might enjoy? Make sure, or any of us would enjoy, be sure to drop those in the comments as well. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please do me a solid and drop a like on it. I see you guys have been liking the videos, you guys have been commenting, you guys have been subscribing. I appreciate all of you so much. There's still so many of you that are not subscribed though. So if you haven't already, please, please, please go down to that subscribe button, hit that button and the bell next to it. You'll be notified every time I upload. Hoping to be more consistent as we move into 2023 and hopefully doing a lot more of these deep dives. But I think that's gonna do it for me. So until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.